was going to wear makeup. I was like, let me just...
Hello, and welcome to the Financial Wellness Hour. I am your host, Hirsch Serman, and I am thrilled to have you here today on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This show is for those wanting to learn more about creating financial wellness, and we will be taking different life cycles and exploring them financially and emotionally. Because personal finances usually are not about the money, believe it or not, rather about the emotions that are associated with your finances. We're going to take different life cycles, learn how to prepare for them, thrive on the other side. And although each show might have a theme, I can assure you the financial strategies that we talk about are applicable to many situations that you're going to be facing. Although we may be fairly general in our discussions, we would love to hear from you. To make it a little bit more personal and more relevant, we would love you to call in, or you can reach me through my website. It's lifecycle.financial. That is lifecycle.financial. Going solo can mean different things to different people. It can mean going through a divorce, death of a loved one, perpetual bachelorhood, and I'm sure there are many others as well in how you can look at this. We plan on covering all of these and more, just not in today's show. So please do continue to listen, tune into future shows as we cover other topics. And please share your thoughts of what you'd like to hear about so that we can make it more personal and more interesting to you. Today, we're going to focus mainly on divorce, how to prepare for it, how to thrive beyond it, but more specifically, how to be a single mom succeeding. We are navigating unprecedented times, and understanding how a divorce can impact not just going through the divorce, but how it can impact you after as well is vitally important. So they say that laughter is the best medicine. Well, we have a pharmacy full of laughs for you today. No pressure there. My guest today is a comedian and a performer. She has taken the trials and challenges of divorce and devoted herself to helping others heal and to move forward through humor. Michele Traina is the creator of the Diaries and Healing Through Humor, as well as other programs. Welcome, Michele. I am thrilled to have you on the show.
Thanks, Hirsch. I'm so excited to be here using humor to spread the joy during this pandemic.
We've actually been on a podcast together. We've shared a few emails and a few conversations. And I just had to get you on the show, so I really am thrilled. I think there's a lot that we're going to have fun with. But I'm going to start with a little bit of a more serious, severe question. I'm going to jump in right away with a big question for you. One of the times that we spoke offline, you had actually mentioned that you were scared that you were going to have to declare bankruptcy. Going through a divorce, that's more than enough stress that anybody needs to begin with, let alone looming over your head a bankruptcy on top of that. Why did you think you were going to have to declare bankruptcy, and how did you avoid that?
I don't always start my first dates with, I'm going to declare bankruptcy. I think it's a good opener, though. Maybe I should try it. Well, the reason why I got fearful of that was because we were behind in our mortgage, and getting an actual divorce, if I didn't have the support of my family, was so expensive. I didn't even know where I was going to get the money. I pulled it together, but everything was piling up. And I just remember the first attorney, I had two. The first attorney I had suggested you may have to file bankruptcy. And I was like, so I didn't. But the first part was my house, because we were selling our home and it was underwater. So that's, I know. Again, I'm single. But so, gentlemen, no, but I finally got out of all that stuff. But 5 years ago, it was a struggle because we were underwater, and we just lived paycheck to paycheck. Nothing was wrong with that. Both of us worked, but it was a struggle. When you have a child, you get even more into debt just from not spending frivolously, just from bills, student loans from college,
right.
Food, all that stuff. So my house was a big part of it. But I took the bull by the horns and I prayed. Prayer was a big part of it. And the short sale went through. If the short sale didn't go through, I don't know. But that's kind of what started it, to the notion of, am I going to have to file bankruptcy? I wanted to avoid it at all costs. So I just kept following through with my realtor. I came up with a plan on how to condense my debt and just start making payments each month. And I started putting money aside in a credit union. Now, those all didn't happen at once, but throughout the first year of between getting separated and getting divorced, I put all those things into action.
That's great. I think it's natural going through a divorce just in itself to have fear around what am I going to be like financially on the other end. We emotional, we don't always make the best decisions sometimes when we're in an emotional state. So I do think being able to put a plan into action is huge, obviously something to be proud of. But the fright is just, I've experienced it. I've shared that with you. I've shared that with others. The fright of everything happening, the uncertainty, the unknown, and debt is another big one, especially not just having your house underwater, as you had said, but if you're carrying debt with that as well, it's something else that can be very scary with that as well. So the fright of that, anything you want to share about managing the fright of that and the emotions around that you did? Because obviously you went into action, which is kind of the opposite of what most people do when they're in an emotional state.
Yeah, I went into action, but I also cried a lot.
Okay, well, that's an action.
I'm a performer, so we're emotional, we're in touch, and I essentially went right into writing and creating. I didn't start Divorce Diaries immediately, but I just felt like I needed to do something with what was going on. It was crazy, and I handle it by just going to therapy. Big advocate of therapy,
yeah.
And a big part of it was doing what I love. If I was at a position when I first got divorced, I got this position for a performing arts organization, which I thought was going to be right up my alley. But the position was more a desk position, and I should either be on a stage or in a classroom. That's what I realized from that.
Right.
I was sad, and I was like, if I'm going to go through a divorce and I'm not going to be super thrilled about this job I just got, something like I need to figure it out, because then I'm really going to have 90% of my day stressed out. And I just took a position that was a part-time theater teacher position, and I taught at other places to substantiate. And I was happy at work. And for the most part, I was really happy at my job teaching theater to early childhood. I was teaching theater in a college. Even though it was chaotic, it helped the process. And having my parents that love, and my uncle, they were supportive and loving. And that if I didn't have that, it could have been a different situation. It definitely could have been a different situation. Those helped. And then, of course, my work to me is what helps me through a lot of things. So that was a big component of it. Comedy.
I do talk about creating your professional team when you're going through, and even beyond the divorce. You need your attorney, you need your finance person, you need your therapist. But I also talk about to clients having that support team as well, which is so, so important. And especially, you're becoming single, your life is changing. It's a whole new dynamic. You need those people to help you adjust and to transition into that new life. So very important. I'm sure that people, it's not uncommon. There have been news reports and more that, single people are often taken advantage of. I think it's less today, but it's still definitely happening. And people try to take advantage sometimes of somebody walking into a car dealership, which is kind of the classic example. A single man versus a single woman, very different. Yeah. You've actually lived this exact example firsthand. And did you realize ahead of time this was going to be happening? Did you prepare ahead of time? What would you do differently? Can you share that story? Because I think that is a big learning experience obviously for yourself, but for others as well.
Well, I felt like I got between dating men that would pretty much do the same thing with me. And then I was like, I got to bargain with these guys. Like at some point, like they got to get, from the first, when I was ready to lease my car, I saved money, and I was like, I'm going to get a brand new car. I had a 13-year-old Jetta. It was like on its last leg. I would pray because it kept jumping. It needed a new transmission. So I would drive to where I was teaching. It was a city. So I would drive every day in lots of traffic and it would jump. And my daughter would be in the car. I'd be like, please don't right now. 6 more months. And so, and also it was my first car. That was my one and only car. So it lasted me 13 years.
That's great.
I know. And like, I went in, I knew they were going to be like, okay, she's a single female. Let's try to like hook her in. So I had some advice, crazy that the men I was sort of with was like giving me advice, and everyone was like, go in there. They're animals, car dealerships. So I was like, all right, I'm going to just, and I did. I said, I kind of lowballed them. And again, like most men do on my date now. I lowballed them with the price, and then they finally met the guy. The one that I wanted was the Ford Escape. The guy finally met me halfway, but it took a week, and I kept doing my research from friends to say, how is it they can say they can't do this price? So it was my research on how to negotiate and look like I'm coming to the table with something. And then the second thing was, be ready and willing to walk away. And what was my point where I was like, well, I really do need a new car. What is the give and take with that person too, right? Because I'm not a complete jerk. I want to work with the person, and I know they're trying to do their job, but I wanted to come to the table with knowing what I was talking about, at least a little bit, and then also say to them, look, I even said to the one guy, I'm like, I'm a single mother, but I'm not stupid just because I don't have a person talking, right? I said, I'm Italian and I'm from the working class and we hustle. So I know what you're trying to do. So the guy, the dealership that I went with, he met me. He threw in free mats, and now I felt really good about it. So he met me at my price.
That's great.
Yeah. I think that the mileage was a little bit lower than I really wanted, but I mean, I think I pushed the limit. So I was like, all right, I'm good with that. So, but I deal with it, even just in general. Like I had to call the fire department the other day because I had my flame went too high in the grill, and everybody I told was like, Michelle, who's the guy that you're trying to date? I'm like, no, I actually had an actual emergency, sort of, but it was gone by the time they got there. But the point was, they were like, tell your husband to put the propane tank back in the thing. And I looked at the guy. I'm like, I am my husband. Thank you very much. But it's like in their back of their brain. It's not, oh, well, she's, let the guy do it. No, I do most of that stuff. So it's kind of reminding that person, not in any fault of their own, but that, look, I can do it.
So was the fireman cute though, that you could have got a date at least?
The younger one was, yes, actually the younger one was, but like, again, nothing happened from it. But like, I did bring cookies the next day.
Well, that's nice.
And I said, my girlfriend is, her husband's a firefighter. And I said, it was like, should I do that? She goes, yeah, that's a good idea. And then another friend said, yeah, I think that's great. But because I asked her, I said, do you think it's weird if I bring them cookies? And she's like, I don't think it's weird if you bring them cookies. I think you're going to make it weird.
Oh, nice. Showing appreciation for a first responder can never be the wrong thing, in my opinion. Right. They really do. They work hard. It's not an easy job. It's physically and emotionally, draining. I think showing that appreciation was wonderful. And just, to wrap up the story, it is unfortunate that people are taking advantage of women. There's no doubt. I think what you did is the right thing. I tell people, and I've helped a couple clients buy cars. The internet's a very helpful tool, but you also have to be kind of careful. You got to go to reliable sources because not all the information on the internet is reliable. I suggest going to a site like Kelley Blue Book, which is kind of one of the standards. Seeing what other cars of what you're looking for are looking or what they're selling for. Go to the manufacturer's website because they will tell you the latest deals, what's going on that the dealer might not always share with you. Another one is the college graduate. A lot of people think, my kid graduated 15 months ago. Those usually run for 2 years. So sometimes when they say read the small print, it's important. Married couples tend to divide and conquer responsibilities. Men And this is just what I've found through working, for the last 5 years with people. Men tend to do the finances. Now, I will say it doesn't mean they do it well. They weren't born with a calculator. They had to learn it, and they didn't always learn it well. It's not the kind of thing that's taught in school, or, not even the thing that parents generally teach their kids. When you were married, did your spouse, your husband, handle the finances? Was it difficult to take them on and adjust like that?
So when we were married, we kind of kept separate with our bills. He paid his bills, I paid my bills, and we combined our PSE&G income in our cable.
So so utilities, cables, things like that. Okay.
Utilities, cable, and the mortgage. And so I took care of the payment.
Interesting.
I think sometimes men, and the thing was, my mom did the same thing. So I don't know if that was inherited, but I took care of it. But I have dated men since divorce that will take care of it when I'm out with them, so you could tell, like, if I were to be with them, they would want to handle finances. When I want to handle it, just based off of my experience. Also, though, but with my ex-husband, when we first got married, he invested in some stocks and made us some money, and then we bought our house. So that was helpful. But after we were going through divorce, everything was like a battle, the two of us. So it was becoming kind of hairy, and thankfully everything worked out okay, and we've moved on past that. But when we were married, we didn't even have a lot joint together. It was really just utilities and a cable in the house. And the house was a big item because
it is a big item. Upkeep of a house. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. So, so how did you learn that? I mean, originally, how did you did you wing it? Did you turn to somebody? Combination of the two? How did you get up to speed?
Stupid on my end. I should have done my own research. I shouldn't say stupid. I want to always do my own research instead of, even if I'm madly in love 10 years from now, and the guy's like, let's buy a house together, I'm going to do my research and really think on it, because I wasn't with somebody else's. They know on his side, like a family member who they do know what they're talking about, but we went with the family members, realtor, and I just feel like we didn't get a good deal. I feel like they took advantage of us because of certain things. And I found that out during my short sale, because the realtor it could be a he said, she said, but the realtor I had was like, you paid way too much for your house. And I was like, so I wish I would have done my research. Definitely.
Yeah. Hindsight is 20/20 sometimes, but it's and it's so subjective that you don't walk into a store that has a suit or a blouse and say, no, I'm not going to pay, $300 for that suit. I'm going to pay you $270. It's such a subjective thing sometimes when you're buying a house and you don't really know. It's a hard one. It definitely is a hard one.
I will say too, when we were talking, just to kind of pick backwards a little bit, if that phrase even made, I do now, ever since the car leasing thing and ever since the whole, I bargained. I went into Guitar Center to return speakers, and I had to get a different one, and they were going to cost me more than the original ones cost. I looked at the guy. I said, I'm not walking out of here with more. I'm not walking out of here with just a speaker. You're throwing in a mic, you're throwing in a stand, and you're throwing in a speaker stand. And he was like, what? Like, the guy was like, oh, we don't do that here. I said, well, we're going to do it now, because I know you guys are hurting, and you're going to get my business again. I'm a performer. I have a company, Right. And I walked out of there with all those items.
Well, that is very cool. And if that's the mic that we're seeing on the show there, it's because that's a pretty nice mic.
So this is different. This is for podcasts and voiceovers, and for stuff like this when we're doing with the computer. But then I have my live equipment now for, and I actually can use that with my computer too. But I wanted to invest in it because prior to COVID, I had out gigs where some did not supply equipment, and I rather felt comfortable with being prepared for a backup. So I was like, I'm not going to do this like 50-50, 50%. I'm gonna do 100%. I'm gonna, invest in a reasonable price speaker microphone with a stand, and it worked out. So.
Well, I might have to get you to do some of my negotiating going forward. But before that, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to pay some bills and we will be right back. Hi, and welcome back to the Financial Wellness Hour. And this is your host, Hirsch Serman. We are on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network, and are happy that you are with us. Our guest today is Michele Traina, performer, comedian, creator of the Divorce Diaries and Healing Through Humor. Anyone who has any connection to Michele online has probably seen many clips, and you can tell immediately that you are a very engaged mom. We saw right before the show, we saw Grace gave us her presents for a minute, which was good to see her again. But between making slime, your kid time, putting on shows, and traveling, letting your 48-pound daughter hug the bed, that's from one of her clips. That's why I'm saying that.
Yes.
How do you balance making slime with your daughter, traveling, your parents, time for yourself? How do you balance all of this as a single mom succeeding?
That's an awesome question. And actually, I just want to call my daughter's name because she's awkwardly and uncomfortably quiet. Grace, are you okay? Okay. I got scared. I was like, why is my child so quiet? So how do I balance? It's been finding what I do to self-sabotage and nipping it in the bud. That's been something during the pandemic I have noticed. I was like, you're self-sabotaging. And I used to think I don't self-sabotage. I'm always working. I'm always driven. But by self-sabotage, I mean anything that veers me off task, I look at it, I acknowledge it, and then I try to figure out a way around it. So every morning, so I create lists. A big female woman thing. I feel like women do that. We create lists. We like lists. It makes us feel comfortable and secure. But I also, big thing is my short-term and my long-term goals, right? And make sure that I align my weekly goals up with those goals. Now, I don't always get those done, and I have to kind of write a wish list. This is my wish list for one day to get done. Then I have in the back, this is just scribble, but I have what's reasonable to get done because only maybe one of those things I can get done. But if that one thing has got to be the top priority, right? And then all that, the main thing is I create, so aligning my short-term and my long-term goals with my daily goals, right? Creating lists, making sure I have a structured day for myself and for my daughter. But inevitably, something that's like tangible for someone else to take from this conversation is I think of the top 3 things that fill me with happiness that I want to do on a daily basis, right? I thought about this a couple months ago and I was like, love on my daughter, do what I love to do, and pray. So for me, that was, if I always reflect on my day and I did all those 3 things, then I had a productive day. And that's kind of how I balance it. And accepting that those faulty days, like I'm a big Gary Vaynerchuk fan. So he says your whole personal brand is the process too. So if I fall on my face, making slime, everything's a mess, we didn't get anything done, I record that because it's part of my show. It's my life and it can make other people feel good because it's funny, It
is funny. That is funny. And there's a question for you from Carolyn, who I actually was communicating with earlier this morning before the show. She's asking, do you have a plan for your own financial independence? And if so, can you share a little bit about that?
Carolyn, I love that question because literally right before I got on here, I calculated the cost for me to put a down payment on a house and what I need to save a month. So that's a huge part of the plan, is to save for a house that I can also use for my theater company. So it's for my business and for my personal living. So the plan is to save a certain amount a month for the next 2 years. I'd like to say a year, but I don't think that's reasonable because of what's going on. And I know that I need to have, in addition to saving the house, another savings, right? So that's the plan, but that I also feel is difficult for me to wrap my head around because I don't know if I can save that much. So the plan involves me figuring out how to save properly and what the number is per month, if that's my goal. So that's my plan, right? Is to just kind of save and figure out how I can buy property that is not just dumping away into rent.
Right.
And then having my daughter not have student loan debt. That's a big part of the plan because I have a lot of student loan debt. That's pretty much the debt I have right now. And that's buying a home and making sure my child has proper savings when she's set up at 18 and showing her how to create that independence is important. So the student loan debt thing for her, I really don't want her to have. So even though it's not directly connected to my financial independence, it is because I feel like I carry that weight, you know?
Yeah, it is. And I think sometimes people are signing student debt and student loans that they really don't understand always. And, you're 18 to 20 something, early 20s. Usually you don't understand all of these things, but you're signing sometimes tens of thousands of dollars worth of loans. And just to give you some credit from a financial decision perspective, which you didn't share, and I hope it's okay to share, but I think you've shared it publicly already before. One of the decisions you made was to move back with your parents.
Oh, I love
having three generations in the same house. But again, from a financial perspective, to get your feet on the ground after what you went through, that makes a lot of sense. And we've spoken a little bit offline. And, I said earlier, we in such unprecedented times. I feel like we're playing Chutes and Ladders with our lives. Like, go out to restaurants, it's fine. And then, oh, sorry, the restaurants are closed. Go back 5 spaces, go home kind of thing. Our life has become in such flux. And, we had spoken offline when we were preparing a little about some of the things that people can do. And over 60% of people do not have, this is the statistics that I've read, do not have an emergency fund of any kind. And I'm talking about $1,000. And that, I think, is one of the first things people need to think about and do for a couple reasons. One is it's always empowering when you reach a goal. And if you've never saved $1,000 before, that's a big goal for you for your first financial goal. It also relieves stress when something happens, or just to know if something's going to happen, there's $1,000 there. I think it's incredibly important also to have a budget that's realistic. And the statistic I've seen there is about 70% of households do not have a budget.
Yeah.
And, most people, when they do a budget, it's how much is coming in, how much am I spending? You were talking about praying. They'd probably, cross their fingers, close their eyes, put a prayer into the Lord that there's a positive number at the bottom. I do budgets differently. I look at your essential spend, then I look at your income. Then I think there's an important conversation to be had, because after that, it's really a choice and a priority, and even maybe a spending habit that you need to identify beyond that. And I'm saying you need to live life, but you need to live it, with thought and kind of deliberately as well. I would say any budget is an important thing to have. It helps you. I don't think you have to track every penny that you spend necessarily, but you get a feel for what can I afford. You get a feel for, am I living, within my means? Am I, and the security of that. And the other thing I would throw out is with COVID, there are such changes in behavior and spending habits. Maybe you went out twice a week for drinks with friends or whatever it would be. We're not really doing that anymore, but now, are you spending your time online? Am I spending online buying things, or am I spending online like learning a new language or something productive, or reconnecting with friends? So I am going to change direction very, very strongly here, because I want to speak to you about 2 of your programs that I think are fantastic. So the first one I'm going to ask you to share more about is the Healing Through Humor. How did that come about? Who do you work with in those programs? And how does somebody learn more about it? And if they want to get involved, how do they get involved with that?
Well, so I pitched it to a doctor who, Dr. Barbarian, he owns North Jersey Health and Wellness, and it's in space out of New Jersey. They have multiple locations. And I pitched him the idea. I think I told him that it combines my world as a comic and an educator.
Right.
What I have been doing with kids in the classroom is using humor and theater to make them feel good about themselves. And then in turn, they also create their own bits, whether it's a performance or whether it's during an activity. And in turn, it makes them feel good. And it allows them to use something that could be a challenge for them, whether it's a behavioral issue they're having or whether it's a habit they tend to do. They use that through this comedy or this humor exercise in a way that's productive. So that's the goal with Healing Through Humor. With the adults, when I pitch it to him, he's like, this is great, let's do it. And I started doing it in January. I paused for the last month just because of everything that was going on. Sure. We were doing virtual sessions, but a lot of the patients were like, I really want to do it in person. So I'm going to actually start it up again, but we're going to do like a socially distant park Healing Through Humor maybe, or even maybe virtual again. So the work, I think any comic could probably work this idea because they're comedians and they make people laugh. But what I decided to create for myself was the role of educator and comic, and how I can give somebody an exercise to do even without me. And it will essentially make them feel better, less anxious, less stressed out, less sad if they went through a breakup or lost a job, because it helped me. And it came from different things in the classroom as a teacher that I've done throughout my pedagogical practice. And then also as just how I created Divorce Diaries and other one-woman shows I've done. So the start of you basically get to talk for 10 minutes. It's called a clearing, not 10 minutes. I give them a time frame. And then we create improv scenarios based off of challenges they're seeing, things that frustrated them, or it could be an experience that they're going through, whether it's trauma, or whether it's it's a disorder. So North Jersey Health and Wellness is one place that I am a humor coach out of, but then I also just run sessions for anybody who's interested. I've produced the program through different libraries in the tri-state area. I've had clients, virtual clients actually, all over the country, a couple in Alabama and one in Washington State, one in California, because they met me through Divorce Diaries, and then we just stayed connected. Yeah, I love Healing Through Humor because it's really the idea of just finding your life experiences, finding a way to help others and yourself through the humor in it.
Right. So something I meant to ask you earlier is to share how people can get in touch with you. And then I will ask you a few more questions because I've got a lot more to go.
Well, if you're looking to set me up, no, I'm just kidding. We were talking before offline about the Divorce Diaries turning into a matchmaking event for friends that come to my show now. I've been getting I'm so thrilled. They're meeting other singles and connecting. I was like, see, Divorce Diaries gets people married. Yeah. This is why everyone should go to it.
Just tell him to bring a friend.
Bring a friend. So divorcediariesshow.com, micheletraina.com are two main, my website is micheletraina.com. But you can also go to divorcediariesshow.com. That will lead you right back there. All of my social media is the best way to contact me. Instagram is the biggest one. Divorce Diaries Show on all of them. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Plain old email, divorcediariesshow@gmail.com. I also had a text, but I paused on that. But I'm going to go back to the text. You can text the number for Divorce Diaries Show.
Right. Okay.
I forgot the number, but.
Coming back to the Healing Through Humor, I'm not sure if it's connected but I know that you have an inclusion theater where you work with kids with special needs.
Yep. So Propbox Players is a theater company I started in 2013. And a year later, I changed the mission to inclusion theater because my daughter was had to go for early intervention services because she wasn't speaking. And in addition, she had developmental therapy too. So she had delays. She's on a normal range now. She does have an IEP, only because I push for things for her because she needs OT. She needs sensory based things to regulate her emotions, which is why if I can bring out her later before we say goodbye and do slime, we played slime. We literally have 20 containers of slime. So Prop Box Players is kind of the healing through humor concept for children, for families, but also the big proponent of it is using theater comedic pieces to, excuse me, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Using theater as a learning tool for kids to be able to do start to finish things on their own and feel productive. That's part of the idea of Prop Box, and it is inclusion based. So it's kids with or without special needs. I love working. I love producing theater with kids. It's another part of me that I definitely feel like it was my calling. Right. But it's very different. Like a comedy show, and I have my theater company, and it mixes both of my worlds that I love so much. So
that's wonderful. And I mean, personal experiences are just such powerful motivators for us. I've shared the reason that I do the work I do is because of my life experiences. But as a performer, I would imagine they also give you tremendous amounts of material to draw on for your show. So talk a little bit about the Divorce Diaries as well, if you would.
Yeah. So, I mean, Divorce Diaries started when I moved back home with my parents. It was like, I just felt like I should be taped. Like someone should just wake up with a camera and be like, oh my God. Because it wasn't that it was a train wreck, but people watching at home be like, oh my God, she's living with her grandmother too, that doesn't want to wear a diaper. And because my daughter was potty training, my grandmother's potty training again. I have a handicapped dog I had to move in with. My dad and my mom are downstairs. I have my twin brother. I was like, this is the Italian Addams family. And then I was going on dates, and I would be in the car afterwards saying goodnight. And my dad would turn on the light and say, Michelle, what? Like, who's out there? I think he yelled one time, like, who's out? Like something, he thought there was somebody out there. I was like, it's me. But I will never see that guy again, even though he was my future second husband, but it's okay. So it started with that. I felt like it needed to be, I always felt like it needed to be a series. I hope someday it will be on a network, but eventually it turned from a one-woman theater piece to a comedy show. It used to have other comics on it. And then I went back to the one-woman structure because I felt like it was veering off the track that I originally wanted it to be on. And I do stand-up, improv, and sketch. And it really centers around my divorce journey because I felt like it's authentic to what I've always done in theater is I always create from my life. And I establish, if I'm playing a character, I take from my life, like most performers. Right. And if somebody could watch my show and feel comforted and feel motivated to go out and do something productive with their sorrow and their pain, then I feel like the show has accomplished a lot. So that's kind of the goal and message with it.
So they do say the show must go on and not even COVID is stopping you. So how can people tune in to your show or any of these things of late so they can get involved? So
Divorce Diaries is virtually... It was every Saturday, and now that things have opened up a little bit in the tri-state area, I just did a first social distance performance in Jersey City at Homegrown, new craft bar, because they have outdoor seating and outdoor patio. Right. So there's more dates in August that I'm working on, but for now they can tune in every other Saturday. There will be this coming Saturday, there will be a virtual edition. So you can go to divorcediarieshow.com and you can find the link to register. It's free. I have had law firms sponsor the show, so it's awesome. You can just come in and check out the show. Also, every Monday and Tuesday night, I do a live stream at 10:30 p.m. on Divorce Diaries Show YouTube. It's all new stand-up material. So it's not the full-blown show, but I just do a whole bunch of new material and chat a little bit, late night chat.
And I'm going to ask again before we wrap up, how can people get a hold of you? You've got a few different platforms, but share them, will you?
So Divorce Diaries Show on IG, Divorce Diaries Show on TikTok, Divorce Diaries Show all the way on Facebook and Twitter. I'm on Reddit too, but I haven't quite figured that one out yet. And then you can just go to my website too, divorcediaryshow.com, or email me, divorcediaryshow@gmail.com. Always add the show at the end. There's like other Divorce Diaries things out there, but I've copyrighted my show, so I'm safe.
Great. So, I mean, I can tell you on the finance side, it's very easy to complicate things and take a situation that doesn't always have to be. Michele, thank you for sharing your experiences, your insights in how to be a single mom succeeding under any circumstances. It's not easy to be a successful parent, let alone all the things that you've shared, 4 generations in a house and all the rest that has happened. So thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm Hirsch Serman, your host of the Financial Wellness Hour. Please reach out to me through my website, lifecycle.financial. That's lifecycle.financial. I'd love to hear what you would like to learn about on the show. So please do reach out, whether it's questions for me or for Michele Traina, our guest today. And I look forward to you joining me on my next show. Thank you so much. Have a great week.